coming at you from the bunker. Now, this is a very important topic, and a buddy of mine did a live about it last night. I tried to be in the live, but I just had problems, technical difficulties. But I want to show you his take on it, and I'll pause it on his take and all. But I also recommend you subscribe to his channel, Grumpy Acres Farms. It's a really good channel. Hey, the Guardian, what's up? Yeah, I'm going to show a buddy of mine talking about a mag team, because I'm all about the mag team. I really am. And Grumpy Acres Farm, good friend of mine, solid dude. He really touches on some good stuff. So I'm going to show you what he has to say about it, and another guy has to say about it named Spags. And I'll pause it here and there and answer questions. And I will, if I disagree with something, I will pause it and go, well, I don't agree with that. Because I have a very large mutual assistance group. We've been doing this for a very long time. We're over a 250 large group. And then, I'm the president of a motorcycle club. A lot of them are in the mag club also, in the mag group. So, without further ado, I'm just going to play my buddy's video. And again, I recommend y'all subscribe to his channel. It's a really great channel, really good people. Hey, Tamara Smith. Yeah, I'm going to show that about old Grumpy Acres last night, about his mag team discussion. It's really good. And like I said, I'm going to pause it, answer questions, and then play it out. I'm going to do the best I can. So, there's old Grumpy. Let me fix this phone. Oh, all right, good. And everyone, please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you. I know you know who that is, Tamara. All right, so I'm going to do the best I can with what I got. We use the tools we have at hand, right? Hey, from California, I'm praying for you. So, let me set this to go live. Well, shoot. Oh, I guess I am. Oh, man. I just woke up, drinking my coffee. So, y'all check this out. And I was watching something about door locks when I saw you were on here. Thank you, Tamara Smith. Door locks are important, by the way. And also, have something behind your door to brace it. Because there's a lot of people like me that Little Miss Prepper will tell you, there is no lock that I cannot pick in seconds. None. There's no lock. Locks are only made to keep honest people honest. So I'm going to play this and then interject my opinion. But Grumpy Acres is a great guy, and he got Spags on here as a guest. And yeah, Tamara Smith, locks are just to keep honest people honest. So I'm going to play this and then pause and interject and all. But like I said, a really good guy, really solid channel. I got a lot of respect for this man. And y'all subscribe to his channel too. He's a really good person.
To Grumpy Acres Live. It is Wednesday night. Tonight's topic is how to make your mutual assistance group not suck. And when I came up with this idea, one person popped into my mind. But unfortunately, he retired. He wrote this awesome opus when he shut down his channel, but he wasn't really retired. He's kind of semi-retired. He's doing something else. He's putting his efforts someplace else. But I want to introduce our guest tonight, and then we'll say hi to everybody in chat. I want everybody in chat to give Mr. Spags Unfiltered from Midwest Preparedness Project a big round of virtual applause. Hey,
well, thanks. I appreciate it.
Let's say hi to who else in chat. So All Americans in the chat. He says he's looking forward to this. He's got a mag down in Florida. Can Squatch is here. Starless here. Len's here. Len's a buddy of mine from the Marine Corps, Washington D.C. And Agitate the Bear. That's a great That's a great handle right there. Agitate the bear.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So anybody that does not know who Mr. Spags Unfiltered is, you know what, Spags? I'm going to let you give us your bona fides. Tell everybody really quick your what you do in the prepper sphere and like that, if you would.
Sure. I've been prepping since 1997, pretty much when I left home. My father was Air Force, and so I grew up all over the world, including Europe during the Cold War, which obviously led to the foundational ideas that led to me being a prepper. And back then we didn't call it prepping, it was survivalism in the late 90s. And before then it was another word that we dare not utter its name, because for God's sake, you're going to make a liberal's head pop like an overripened cherry tomato on a warm summer day if you say the M word. But that's what it all was, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And really the prepper word came out more in the 2000s, and that was post 9/11. So yeah, I've been doing this since 97, which is a long time. And then when I joined the Army in 1999, I went in as a military police officer, did that for 16 years, which is why I don't like the military. I don't like cops, just so if anyone has a problem with that one, don't worry, I'm there. For about 8 years, I worked for the United States House of Representatives. I was a caseworker for a senior member of the Republican Party here in Kansas. And then I went to Iraq in 2009. And when I came home, a buddy of mine named Pete and I and another guy named Craig started the Kansas Prepper Expo, which was really kind of the first of the prepping expos in the Midwest. Until then, it was all gun shows. Mm-hmm. So we created the Kansas Prepper Expo together, and I eventually became the vice president of that company, and we ran 10 successful preparedness expos across Kansas. And we set up everywhere from Topeka to Forbes Field to Abilene to up in Holton area. And we did that. And we ultimately morphed that into full spectrum preparedness, which was expos as well as local mag and meetup groups. And we were teaching other people how to build expos, and we were trying to help create this network of expos across the Midwest.
Hey, the bear.
2016 happens. The Great White Hope shows up, and nobody was scared anymore. And so the prepping industry just kind of fizzled down. Well, my group, my mag, as you would call it, was still going on in the background. And so all of those things together are kind of why I'm in this area, why I do what I do. And now I'm the vice president of Midwest Preparedness Project, which is a twice a year, week-long camping expedition here in Kansas. You know what it is. You've been there longer than I have, actually. So, like, a lot of people show up, they camp, we put on classes, we get sponsors to donate cool stuff, we give it away every Friday, Saturday. Grumpy hosts one of our 2 barter events. They host a seed exchange on Friday night, and then we have the Bartertown event on Saturday night, and it's just awesome. I was very fortunate, 2 jobs ago to work for EMP Shield here in Kansas, a locally owned business, and so I got to travel, made friends with folks over at Self-Reliance Festival and folks over at Kentucky Sustainable Living. So then the guys over here with us at Midwest, we created the Great American Preparedness Tour along with them. And now we have this national tour that we're going to start, or that we have started promoting. And we have a series of events that put on these different types of shows, all of them unique, all of them different, all of them have their own special thing to add to the Prepperverse. And so, yeah, I've been around a long time, and I've had my hand at quite a bit of things in this field. I've been very, very fortunate to know a lot of super good people, such as yourself, and then, the guys like Patrick and Kyle and Christy and those who help put on Midwest. And it's been an awesome ride, and I intend to do this until the day I die.
Oh, so the next question that flows from that is a lot of people in the prepper sphere, they don't like putting themselves out there. And
hello, David. You have an awesome wine.
What inspired you to start sharing your experience like you do, and start doing these things aside from the monetary aspect of the shows and stuff?
I've always just kind of been an extrovert, where I like being up in front of crowds. I like talking to people. I like going out and networking and rubbing elbows. It's probably why I'm a salesman in real life. It's probably why I got promoted, within the military quite quite well and was in charge of a large amount of people and machines, and that puts you in the front. It puts you up there. You're in charge of logistics. You're in charge of dealing with personalities. You're entrusted with lives. And so
Thank you, Bear.
I've just got the kind of personality, I suppose, that lends to.
You're very
being that
welcome,
dude
Shannon
who's
Lee.
not afraid to put himself out there. I've never really worshipped at the altar of OPSEC in the prepping world, and I'm pretty cavalier about that, which annoys some people. But not everybody can just hide in a bunker and eat popcorn all day, man. Some of us have to be doers.
Okay. Okay. For everybody in the chat, so the way this whole idea came about was, if you go back and look through our catalog, our video catalog, I started a series at the beginning of last year based off of Charlie Hogwood's Building a Circle class.
Thank you, David.
I did 2 or 3 videos about building a mag.
Yeah, and she is awesome. You're right. You got a good one, brother.
Season and everything. Never got back to it. And I was listening to some podcasts and some people that talk about mags, and it occurred to me, number one, I have never been in a mag. I know 2 mags, people in 2 mags. Your group being one of them, and only one time did anybody in my circle even discuss starting a mag, and we figured out really quick that we wanted to go the community route. All right, but the thing I do understand about mags, and I firmly believe this. Hey, Chuck Peoples is in the house. Speak about another alumni of the Great American
Tour.
Tour. Yeah. One thing I figured out is despite what everybody says, it's extremely easy to start a mag. Mm-hmm. You can find like-minded people to get together. People want to train. They want to do this type of stuff. It's really hard making one that lasts and one that's not dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And Spec, how long has your group been around? Have you guys
19 years. We've almost been around 2 decades as a group.
In prepper years, that's like over a century.
Yeah, prepper years are like dog years, man.
Yeah,
they really are.
Exactly.
All of our knees start to go bad, or we have bad attitudes.
Exactly. So, folks, this is why I brought Spags on here to talk about this, because he's got a lot of great insight. And I'm going to tell you flat out, and Spags, you correct me if I'm wrong on this. We're not going to give you a blueprint. This is not a blueprint on how to make a successful mag. But what it's going to do is it's going to give you some ideas to think about, and it's going to differ from mag to mag. All right. So before we get started, if you have any questions, put them in all caps so I can try to see them. I'm going to be talking with Spags. We'll be going through the questions I've got. But if I see it, we'll get it up and we'll see if we can't get it answered for you.
Thank you, Bear.
If you are not a subscriber and you stumbled on this channel and this discussion, go ahead and hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, y'all subscribe to Grumpy Acres Farms. It's a great channel.
So you figure out if you really like what's being said. But
he's a good friend of mine.
We talk about stuff like this all the time. Okay? All right, you ready to go, Spags?
I'm ready.
First part. Mags are made up of individuals. All right? And in your opinion, what is the most misunderstood aspect?
Yeah, sorry to hear that, Tamara.
Part of a mag. What do people usually not get?
Your mag is not your group. That's the number one mistake. Everyone thinks that a mag is a group. Terms matter, and there's centrifugal circles in the prepping world. Your group, the people you are going to bug out with, is not your mag. Your mag is a much larger group that's around the group of you and who you're going to allow at your private property. And if you've got a mag that's got 1,000 people in it, cool.
Hello, goats.
They're not all coming to your property. That's not your actual prepping group. So we should probably define the term. So my prepping group, a group of families and friends, have been together for 19 years. The mag that surrounds us, and that includes ancillary people who are friendly with us, that we would consider ourselves friends, allies, even family with, aren't necessarily the same as the group itself. So you have to be able to differentiate between core and then everything else, because there isn't everything else. And you will make the biggest mistake of your life when you try to include everyone, because it doesn't work. At least in the classic description of creating a actual preparedness group that you plan. You, me, and that person, we're the ones in the bunker when the nuke drops, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the biggest problem is people don't know how to have those layers of separation. They think everything is everything is everything.
Thank you, Bear. Thank you.
Overexert themselves.
Great channel, Grumpy Acres Farms. Great channel.
Very damn quickly.
So you look at the mag as being the circle above your tribe.
Correct.
Okay, and see,
that's all it means. Mutual assistance group, right? It's all that. Like, there are people that don't show up and train with me every month, but I would still go help them, and they would still help me. They're in the mutual assistance group, not the same as the center of the bullseye. Okay.
See, and that's different than the philosophy that Charlie Hogwood has. And he's got a great series on how to build one and give you the blueprint for it. But that's a completely different thing. And I'll be quite honest with you. I always felt that the outer circle that you're talking about was that's where the concentric circles of your tribes interlap, right?
They can absolutely interlap, but it's not necessarily the same thing. And you have
Thank you, Phoenix Princess.
The biggest problem with preppers is they don't know how to say no. Everybody wants to be everybody's friend, and everybody wants to be tolerant. And frankly, tolerance is a word used by men with no standards. So you try to include everybody, you are going to rot your ship from the underneath. The hull gets rotten before you ever set sail.
Right. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. All right. Well, all right. Let's talk about building a team then. I was going to ask you about the mutual assistance.
Drop Phoenix Princess's channel and drop her link.
For someone starting,
and any of my mods, feel free to drop your link to your own channel. That's awesome.
Would recommend.
Well, first you have to have commonality. That's the number one thing. A lot of people don't put enough focus on common philosophy, and I'm just going to go out and say this right now. You will never find a Marxist of any variety in my group. You will never find anybody in my group who thinks they have a claim to my property as theirs. You will probably never find anybody who votes for AOC in my group. And it's not because there aren't good liberals out there, because I've met them. They do exist, but it's because the vast majority of them have a foundational philosophy of taking, whining, and being
awesome. Thank you, Shannon Lee.
For people like that when it comes to surviving the end of the world. So that's number one, commonality of your foundation. I would say number two would be a healthy respect of private property, which kind of ties into the same thing. But there are even people not in that blue-haired group who don't quite understand private property. I know people right now who think they have a claim to other people's equipment just because they're in the same group or the same mag. And that's not true. You know, if I have a bulldozer and it's mine and I own it for my business, you don't have just instant access to that because we're in a prepping group together, or because we're in a mag, or because we met at a prepper expo and shook hands one time. Private property is still private property, and the respecting of private property is foundational to all voluntary human interaction. It's one of the keynote foundational things of anarcho-capitalism, of libertarian philosophy, and all of this other stuff, of which I'm a huge subscriber. And then number three is going to be, how the hell do you handle kids? That's the number one thing that will rot every group from the inside out, is lack of discipline with children, or the inability to see at least close enough eye to eye with how everyone within the group disciplines their kids.
Right. Yeah. The
hey, Charlie, let's go.
That was the sticking point when we had our discussion.
Thank you, Goat.
The group and cohabitating in the event of an emergency. The idea of personal sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
Every single conversation always came back to personal sovereignty.
Sure.
And it's a stickler. And my hat's off to anybody that can navigate that minefield, because you start getting into egos and things like that at that point.
It's again, like you said, it's not hard, it's just difficult. And most people will do the easy thing, and when it comes time to do the difficult thing, which is saying no and setting boundaries, nobody wants to do that. Let me take that back. I'll remove the word nobody. That's not fair. The vast majority of people today don't know how to look you in the eyes and just tell you no. because they're afraid they're going to hurt your feelings. They're afraid they're going to say something that will ruin a friendship. Well, if you are involved with people that you're that worried about losing them as a friend, much less somebody who you're going to ride out, Godzilla stomping through Tokyo with, and you can't say the word no to them, you are in the absolute wrong place.
Right, exactly. Tell them your personal philosophy over who you trust in that inner core group there. About your wallet and that
life, wife, wallet. If I can trust you with my life, my wife, and my wallet, chances are we're going to be really good friends. And I take that all the way down to the base level. Like, I should be able to, and forgive my French folks, if you know who I am, I don't pull any punches. If I can take my wife, lay her butt naked in the living room while you're there, and walk out and go on a 2-week vacation and come back and she's right where I left her and you've left, we're probably going to be cool. I can trust you with my life. If you stay the night at my house and I leave some money out on the coffee room table and it's there when I leave the next day, or you leave the next day, I can trust you with my life or my wallet, and I have to know I can trust you with my life. Now, that's the most tricky of the three, because most people who haven't been in a situation where they've been in a firefight or they've been in combat or even in a real fist fight in their life probably actually have no clue how they're going to do. But you can get a pretty good feel of people, who's going to cut and run. You might not be able to figure out who's going to sit there and be in the trench to the last possible minute, but you can definitely tell who would be in jail with you the next day, and that's probably as close as you're going to get in peacetime.
Well, and the reason why I wanted you to go through that is because those are the type of people that, A, most of the time they don't put you in a position where you have to tell them no, and B, if you do have to tell them no, it doesn't destroy the friendship.
Exactly.
And so you can carry on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's go to the next one. This one is about SHTF. Everybody likes talking about that. How does preparing for a SHTF scenario influence the dynamics and principles of a mutual assistance group? How's that work for yours? Are you guys planning for SHTF, or does it go beyond that?
It goes beyond that. It goes to real life. If someone has a problem with their solar array, we go help them. If someone's vehicle goes down, hell, I have Pete, my buddy I was telling you about that I ran the expo with.
Mm-hmm.
One of my vehicles broke down about 5 years ago. He just lent me one of his. Hey, here's a Bronco. Go drive this around till you get something new. He didn't ask questions. He didn't, double check. He didn't sit there and hesitate. The minute my vehicle went down, Pete called me and said, here's a car. You may drive it until you get something. So I kept it for about a month and a half, filled it up with gas, did the maintenance on it, and gave it back to him, hopefully in the same or better condition of which he gave it to me. So it's about more than shit hits the fan and all that. I mean, yeah, that's the sexy stuff. That's the stuff that sells books. That's the stuff that makes great movies and great TV. But at the end of the day, 99.9% of the emergencies you're going to encounter in life are going to be flat tires, loss of a job, something blows up on the farm, and then you have to have friends you can count on to do it and come over and help. And you have to be willing to extend that exact same courtesy to them.
So you've got this great basis there. Does planning for the end of the world color that at all? I mean, how does that change whenever you move beyond that, the everyday stuff? How does that change the way the group is formed?
Well, sure. There's an old saying, and it came, I think, from about the mid 2000s when Walking Dead first came out, somewhere in that time period. One of the things that you heard a lot said in the prepper world was, if you plan for a zombie apocalypse, you have planned for everything. And basically the idea was all the different things that could lead to the zombies, that would happen during the zombies or after the zombies, are the kinds of things you would most likely encounter in real life in the worst possible case scenario. So, of course, guys like us are going to think about North Korean satellites and weather balloons. Guys like us are going to think about drones in New Jersey. We're going to think about COVID-19. We're going to think about government shutdowns. We're going to think about, the Illuminati and the banking system and the lizard people and, alien invasions and Project Bluebeam and the Antichrist. You name any of those things, and it absolutely is foundational to why most people at some point are doing what they're doing. You just have to learn to take that prepper fantasy or that prepper porn and put it into the real world and be willing to narrow it down to a flat tire.
Okay, that brings up something that just occurred to me. I've got this philosophy that everybody's got a pet fear that gets them into the thing, and it may be rational, it may not be rational, but for you, it's the reason why you're driven to do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
how do you balance everybody's pet fears whenever you start talking about the big things that drove them into becoming preppers? How do you balance that out and make sure that everybody's got at least some representation?
You separate fantasy from business. So with my group, you will never see a business meeting where someone's like, well, I heard this about the Illuminati, and so I think we should buy more corn. We don't allow that. When it's time for business, it's time for business. All right. Who's running the range today? Who's doing NBC training or CBRN training? Who's going to go down and inventory the food? Who's going to get the comms up? Real stuff when we train is business. And there's no alcohol. There's no drinking at all. It's a dry event when we're training because you have to be of sober mind and a sober body to properly do things and not let your ego and your anger get a hold of you. And so we don't allow any drinking while we're training. Sorry, rednecks. I'm one of you.
That was funny.
David. I don't care. But when you're actually planning for the end of the world, there's no place for mind-altering substances while you're doing business. Now, once business has concluded, sit around the campfire, drink, smoke, shoot, snort, whatever the hell you want. I'm a libertarian. I don't judge, but I'll probably make sure some of you don't end up in the group if you're doing certain things, right? And you use the time around the campfire as your proving ground. That's when you start to dig into people's psyche and figure out what makes them tick. And that's when you start to see what they have to do to come down from their day, and so you use the irrational fear. You use the prepper porn. And you use people's coming down to see what they do to come down to find out if that's somebody you think you could actually survive in a basement for 4.5 weeks with no internet with.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why we started doing Conflicted around the campfires at the original pre-project Midwest Preparedness get-togethers. Conflicted, the precursor to WRL. I mean, you remember what it was like. I mean, you get somebody starts drinking and they start answering these questions, and you get to really see the way people's minds work at that point.
You do. It's true what they say that when the spirits come out, the spirit is revealed.
Yeah, they are awesome. I strongly recommend you sub to Grumpy Acres Farm and Spags.
You can certainly get to 99%.
Thank you, David.
Close enough to realize this
Grumpy
guy right
Acres is a good friend of mine.
The kind of person I want in high stress situations right next to my children with.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've kind of hit on building that team, making a successful team. What do you believe is the single most important factor for achieving that long-term success as a team? What would you attribute your group's long-term success to?
The ability to adapt. So when we started, I was a staff sergeant in the Army. My best friend was a captain in the Army, and one of the other guys in the group was my lieutenant in the Army. And a good chunk of the other guys were in the Air Force or the Navy. There's a lot of veterans in our group. And so in the beginning, that was the common tie that brought us together. And we knew how to be assholes around each other because we were all former military or current military at the time. But, and this is a big but, then you bring in wives and children. And then you find the guy who maybe is a doctor and has no damn idea what it's like to get yelled at 4:30 in the morning, and you bring them in. And over time, your group becomes more and more civilian. Well, you have to learn to adapt. And it's one of the biggest fallacies of the prepperverse with these people is you generally will put the guy there's two people that get put in charge of a group, the former military guy or the landowner. And it's generally a matter of money, power, or influence. It's generally an issue of A-type personalities being the loudest guy in the room who gets put in charge or elected in charge or who just kind of takes the reins. And what you have to understand is that out here in the real world, in the civilian world, leadership is 100% fictitious. It doesn't exist. At any point, anybody can walk up and say, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. And it's not like the Marine Corps or the Army where you can
thank you, Shannon Lee. That's awesome.
Jail or take their money. So you have to be able to adjust and listen to people as human beings and not look at them as soldiers and not look at them as Marines and not look at them as airmen or sailors. Because if you can't make that transition, and that more broadly speaking, if you can't transition your group to mold to the times as needed with who's in it and what the needs of the people in your group currently are, you're going to absolutely stagnate and you're going to piss everybody off and they're all going to leave. And while we're okay with pissing some people off when it needs to, there's a truth to if you piss them off for the wrong reason, they're just going to leave. And then you're left with what? You know, it reminds me of that old Honeymooners episode where the husband's like, I'm going to hit you. And he's like, I'm the boss and you're nothing. I'm the boss and you're nothing. I'm the boss and you're nothing. And finally the wife looks and goes, fine, you're boss over nothing. You know? And so that's really what it comes down to, is dynamic leadership who can actually inspire people to get off the couch and do things without pretending that their authority is anything past something made up that people are willing to give them in the moment.
So you mentioned two things there that I want to touch on. The first one was you talked about the person that's never been yelled at 4:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. Do you guys, does your group actually do stress training? Like
we have.
You have?
We've done the whole thing where we will, you know, early on when we were mostly prepperish and not as homesteadish, and we had the one property that was the bug out location, we would all go there with our bug out bags and our weapons and our pro masks and our kids and our dogs and anything you thought you needed to survive the end of the world. And we would turn the breaker to the house off, and every family got assigned a single bedroom, and we had fire watches, we had roving patrols, we had comms checks, we had mounted vehicle convoys. We did all the cool shit you did in the military, right? All the things you think you need to be able to do to survive against lizard people, whatever. And it's stressful. And you find out very quickly how much you can stand being around people in that circumstance. And it's absolutely storytelling. It'll tell you everything you need to know when you do stress testing. And yeah, so
Yoda asked a question that actually fits directly between the stress question and the other question I was going to ask. She wants to know, how long do you court somebody before you decide they're an asset, or do you just let them in because you have a feeling?
There's a courting process, and the time is undetermined. It's different for everybody because no one's the same. With my group, the way it works, we've actually set up a constitution, a set of bylaws, and a charter. We went the way of the Pilgrims. We did the Magna Carta route. We have paperwork in place that we've all signed as a kind of a unifying common, non-legal, obviously, but I mean, it's a focal point. You can hold it up and say, look, you agreed to this. So it's getting hard, so stick with it, right? And there's only one thing in my group that requires a unanimous vote, and it's bringing in new members. And so if there's someone in the group thinks would be a good fit, they bring up their name. We talk about it. We get to know them. And then we orchestrate situations where all of us are around, we're there around. So barbecues. Birthdays are a great camouflage way to get to know people because it's a really good excuse for everyone to be in one place. It's a great excuse for everyone to be drinking. It's a great excuse to see people letting their hair down. And it's a great way to see how their kids are going to interact with your kids. And so we would always use things like birthdays or 4th of July or what have you as a really good way just to get these people around us. And we'd see how they acted when they were drunk, or we see how they would act if they drank at all. We'd see how their kids acted. And then we would start to do more of that. And eventually the group would say, all right, move to the next phase. And so we'd bring them around for range days, more dangerous type activities that had a little more liability to it. And when the group was ready, somebody would make a motion. I make a motion that we bring, let's say, Grumpy G into Bobby Spags' prepping group. And the next person seconds, all those aye. If there's a single nay, canceled, rediscuss the matter. And everybody had to understand that you weren't allowed to get your panties in a twist because someone said no to your friend. There was a reason. And if you've already let that person in your group, you have to trust the reason that they said no is a reason you're willing to respect because they're already in the group, meaning you've already vetted them. So there's that kind of cyclical respect that has to go into this sort of thing where you have to be willing to respect the views of others, even if it pisses in your Cheerios a bit.
So you've gone through the process and you've got some of the group. One of the things that a successful group has is a like-mindedness. We talked about that earlier. Things happen and somebody decides they're going to leave the group, and you were talking about inventory and gear and all that other stuff. Yep. So I assume you have some I'm going to use the word communal, but that's not really a bad word.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, there's communal property.
So how do you handle if somebody gets upset because you did piss in their Cheerios and they want to leave the group? How do you handle the separation from the group of that person and have it not become a major liability for you?
We have had 4 people leave our group over time, most of it amicably. We've had 1 person leave just because they weren't interested anymore. We have very little in what would be considered communal. Okay, we do have monthly maintenance fees people are required to pay to be a member. It's a club, so there's club fees. We can't use the word that starts with D because then the Kansas Commission Gaming Commission wants to get involved in the IRS and all that. So you have to pay to show up to these private events. And the payment is ubiquitous. It's the same, has been the same for years. $10 per person per month, period. There's a vestment period at 10 years. All we buy with that are the key things that the group agreed upon and has continued to agree upon. So common food, common ammo, and common comms gear for the bug out locations, for lack of a better term. When you join, you are told there is no way to take this radio and carve 32% out of it to represent what your family paid. So your personal property that's in your locker at each location is yours. If you want to leave the group, just go. No one will bar you from the properties. You take your stuff and go. But anything that was purchased with dues is considered communal, and we're sorry about your luck, but you're the one choosing to leave. And it's always been handled that way. And people are made very aware of that before they join, before they are asked to say, yes, I'm joining, and they commit to being a part of our group. They have to understand that anything that your dues pays for is now tied to the locations that those things are at. Sorry about your bad luck, but best wishes. And it's never been a problem because we're very clear about it.
Hey, Stephen King.
We've never actually had a very bad breakup with anybody. The vast majority of the reasons people have left our group is because a job makes them move out of state or because they just weren't interested because Trump won, and so they're like, yeah, keep the stuff, it's fine, no big deal. And the thing is, most of these people are friends and family outside of just the prepping group anyway. And so I think that there's an aspect that they understand if shit got really, really bad, they'd probably just come back and pick up where they left off. And because we don't take ourselves so damn seriously, we're not the military and our leadership and authority is completely fictitious. Yeah, you're probably going to be allowed back. And everyone has ebbs and flows. Shit, man, I've had prepper burnout more than once over the last 26 years. I don't judge anybody for having prepper burnout. And so
thank you, Stephen.
Mentality of understanding that people are going to come and go, but they were good enough once, and unless they truly wrong your group and they do something, they drop that purple smoke grenade and throw the fuck pie everywhere, chances are you're going to let them back in if they want to come back, and if they leave, fine. There's no hard feelings.
See, now you're giving me insights here because one of the
awesome. Thank you, David.
Doing the
appreciate that
thing was,
and welcome, Steve.
The communal food from the gardens and stuff.
If you're a friend of Shannon Lee's and David, you're a friend of mine.
What you guys did was you just minimized the communal aspect of everything. That way, when a separation happens, it's not a big deal, and somebody doesn't walk away if they're 1/10 owner in something. They don't walk away with 1/10 of your food or 1/10 of your medical supplies or your ammo or whatever.
Well, this is the whole thing about growing up from prepping into homesteading, right? We all started out somewhere. And again, my group is unique in the fact.
Nice to meet you, Stephen.
But it's unique to us in the fact most of us were military.
Thank you, Shannon Lee.
We viewed the world from the military point of view. We're going to stockade this property, build it up with sandbags, put machine gun emplacements. We're going to go to the National Guard Armory when the zombies show up, steal a few MRAPs and Humvees and some heavy weapons, fortify this place, and it's going to be Custer's last stand against the whole world. Well, as you get older, you realize that's just prepper porn. It's probably never going to happen. And even if it did, good luck. You don't have resupply. You're not the damn U.S. Army. It's never going to work. So you have to then look at self-sustainability models. And when you do that, you start to realize, and this is probably, again, probably the second biggest myth that preppers and homesteaders who engage in prepping get into. It's the myth of the landowner. It's the myth that the one dude who owns the land gets to call all the shots. Well, okay. If you form a group around that and you all voluntarily agree to that, fine. It can work. Feudalism did work, but it got replaced by capitalism at one point because, well, capitalism is fucking awesome and it's way better than feudalism. And so it's really good to make sure the people who are in your actual inner circle, your prepper groups, have a good fundamental grasp of actual economics. which is why I told you, no Marxist is ever going to be a part of my group, because there's no way I'm going to try to survive in a bunker with someone who believes that they have a moral right to one of my last 5 grains of rice. It's just not happening.
Sam wants to be on the crew that goes and gets the MRAPs when the time comes.
I would take Sam anywhere. I would let that man be my machine gunner any day.
Yep. Okay, so you mentioned leadership, the leadership aspect of the group, and one of the questions I had was, how critical is leadership to a mutual assistance group? I mean, you've got to have some sort of hierarchy, and what qualities?
Yeah, I live in a bunker too, Steve.
Of the group that you're talking about.
I would say that would depend on the group dynamics. Obviously, early on, we were very militaristic, and so having a militaristic style leader worked. As you add more non-military people to a group, that doesn't tend to work as well. So I think that the number one thing about your leader, he has to be dynamic. He has to be.
That's awesome, David. I really like that.
Again, his position is made up. It's no different than a DM for Dungeons and Dragons. You have no more authority than that nerd, okay? You really don't. You're just Dungeons and Dragoning with guns instead of spears and, chalices of fire or whatever. And so if you understand that at no point do you actually have any true authority, then you start to look at ways that are creative to solve problems. And you start to learn to draw upon the strengths of the people within the group. You brought them in for a reason. So you need to listen to them, and you need to understand that they've got something to add. And so it's the top-down leaderships that are going to fail most of the time without resulting to just pure despotism. And it's not because, and I'm a big proponent, I'm a Jordan Peterson guy. I love hierarchies, lobsters, baby. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Hierarchy works very well. Capitalism and the free market work very, very well. But in order for that to happen, you have to understand why they work. So having leadership who understands and is educated a little bit on economics and the art of dealing with people, absolutely 100% needed.
One of the tropes in prepper fiction is the leader. You talk about the leader, and a lot of prepper fiction gets it right, because one thing that I found in this regards is, number one, the leaders usually don't want to be leaders, and they are elevated to that position because they have some sort of quality that people want to follow, and they look to them for guidance, right? And you even see it in the military with the hierarchical design of the military. There were NCOs in units that I was in that were the leaders, and the leaders on paper would defer to them because of their experience and their abilities. And I think when it comes to something like this, I think that becomes a really important aspect of the whole leadership context.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. You talked about the landowner. If the landowner prescribes to your idea, what happens? How do you deal with the landowner versus the group? I know we're kind of backtracking here, but how do you deal with the landowner versus the group? Because at the end of the day, the guy still owns the land.
Yep.
And what happens if the group starts usurping him?
Well, this goes back to the fundamental principles of foundational commonality we talked about at the very beginning. You shouldn't have anybody in your group who's not a free market capitalist to begin with. Now, sure, hunger and cold is a horrible combination. It's been used by despots throughout history to get people to do whatever they want. But this is why you have to bleed together in real life now. It's why you have to face challenges now, so you understand how your stressors work. At the end of the day, the landowner, let's say you have a group and it's a new group and only one person has a property that's
Steve, that's awesome.
Bugging out on or putting the animals on. Then you have to defer to that person when it comes to the management of their property. And if the leader of the group is not the landowner, right, the leader still has to respect the fact that that land is owned by the person who owns it. At the end of the day, whether there's cops or not, no matter what the shit hit the fan scenario is, if the landowner says you guys got to leave, there's going to be reasons for that. Now, every decision in life is an economic decision. And so if we're talking worst case scenarios, there has to be a good reason why somebody would be kicking 40 people off of their property in the middle of a zombie apocalypse.
Right.
And what I will tell you is that market principles apply to disaster. And when you have a disaster of that magnitude, there will be so many factors working for and against every single person that the likelihood of that sort of scenario happening and a grand mutiny happening becomes diminished simply because we're human beings. We don't like pain. We don't like pain points. And so if something is causing people pain, most individuals, even under stress, want to alleviate that as quickly as possible and move on. So there is some definite
That's absolute true, David.
management that comes into this. But again, this goes back to you better be really careful who you vet to bring in your group in the first damn place.
Right. And I have not seen the new movie Homestead, but I did read the source material. I read the book that the movie's based off of. And the whole landowner versus the guy, he was the security expert. And the landowner had to defer to the security expert. And in the book, they did a really good job of showing the guy growing into his landowner leadership position. You know, he was leader at the beginning of the book by de facto of being extremely rich and owning the property. That's what made him the leader. But as time went on, he grew into the role of actually leading the group. All right. Nowhere Homesteady is throwing you a curveball, and he wants to know the answer to this.
Sure.
Inquiring minds want to know, how do you reconcile or handle being an anarchist with even having a hierarchy in your group? Doesn't your group effectively have a government?
Easy answer.
Okay.
Hierarchies are not government. Hierarchies happen naturally in the natural evolved world. Animals have hierarchies, but it doesn't mean they're voting for a master. You can be an anarchist and absolutely believe in
absolutely, David.
Market. The myth of
you're right, David.
Free anarchist is a left-wing lie. Now, the original anarchists a couple hundred years ago were predominantly left-wing, and so left-wing ideology has unfortunately infiltrated and mostly commanded the dialogue around what it means to be an anarchist. You think of an anarchist in America today, you probably think of Antifa.
Yeah, David, you're absolutely correct.
Some little group of rainbow flag wearing whatever is out there, screaming about, I'm a real woman or whatever. Divorce yourself from that and understand that the word anarchist, it's Latin. It means no rulers. That's all it means. A leader is not a ruler. A ruler comes up to you and cracks a whip and says,
"Hey,
you have
Shannon,
to do this or I will hurt you." A leader inspires you to do the things that are mutually beneficial to the group and, by extension, you as the individual. So leadership and rulership, not even remotely the same thing. Ruling is a form of leader, and we call that toxic. It's bad. It's a horrible thing, which is why every despotic government in the history of the world ultimately fails. The anarchist thing comes into where ultimately all that it means is I have an opt-out feature. And that's how I view the world, even it's within the United States. I am happy to be a U.S. citizen. I don't care at the same point about any document or any powdered wig dude from 300 years ago or what they said. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And as far as I'm concerned, the rest of the world has fuck all to say about it. And until I do something to tread on your ability to do the same thing, you have the same towards me. And as long as we can mutually agree on that, we're fine. But hierarchies work at establishing order. And there's a difference between anarchy and chaos. What the left wants is chaos. And what people like I want is anarcho order, which absolutely can happen. It happens in nature all the time.
So Yoda's upset because I skipped over her question. I went back and found it. Let's see if you got to
go home with her, man.
Let's see if we can parse this out and make sense of what she wrote. Okay, how do you separate a leader from a government design not working system? Not quite sure. Can you elaborate on that? And
it sounds like what she's asking is how do you distinguish between someone who leads someone successfully versus a government system that doesn't work at all? Is that what you're asking?
Is that what you're asking? I think that may be it. That may be it. Of course, I read Nowhere Homesteady's question, and the first time I read it, I was like, I'm not going to ask Spags why he's an antichrist.
Well,
Oh,
I do.
don't have my
I
glasses
do.
on. I couldn't.
I
read it.
do bow to my Lord and Savior, and there is no doubt about that. So
Amen.
I'm far from the Antichrist.
Exactly
But-
what Spags just said.
Well-
Exactly what Spags just said.
Okay, then.
Okay, so
We have an issue with new people coming in and around, right?
Hang on.
Names don't need to be said. That
Sure.
want more of a military style government system. Who is going to be in charge? Who's going to be second lieutenant, etc. How do you separate that from true leaders?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That. Yeah. Okay.
It
That's
was
not.
just a lot to type in capital
Okay,
letters.
okay.
That's
so-
not what. That's not what you type. That's
You
not the
cursed
question.
It's-
me
no,
because
I got it.
couldn't type
I got it. I got it.
You heard what she said.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, so we have to distinguish between the fact that military leadership is not always bad leadership. I knew plenty of people in the Army who were great leaders, who weren't despotic, top-down assholes who would just destroy you. I consequently also knew guys in the military who were the most selfish, egotistical pieces of shit I'd ever seen, and I hated them more than the people I was overseas fighting for freedom, right? So there is a huge difference between a leader, again, and someone who rules through dictatorship. And a leader can inspire, and inspiration leads to results. A government that stagnates under top-down systems degenerates and rots. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. What does our Lord say? By their fruits you shall know them. It's pretty simple. If somebody can inspire you without just being a jerk
Amen.
to get things done, then they're a leader. And the flip side of that coin is there is a time and place to be a jerk. There is a time and place to be an asshole. Sometimes it just has to happen. You can't always go the democratic route. In fact, I'm a huge advocate of saying F democracy. I absolutely detest democracy.
Yep.
I detest it for so many reasons. I hate the fact that even the political right in this country has gotten to the point where they're saying American democracy is blah, 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 blah. There's no such damn thing as American democracy. And even if there was, I would reject it outright because the pedophile down the road on the registry that I can find online has no goddamn business having the same say in what goes on with my roads as I do, right? There's no system in the world that should elevate a neckbeard playing video games at 70 years old, living in mom and dad's basement, having never once held a real job in their life, having any business determining tax policy. So all that to say, you can have leadership that inspires results. Everything else is just rot.
Yeah. So Len says a leader serves his group, a despot
Absolutely.
expects the group to serve him.
Correct.
And-
a leader will do what he does for the betterment of everyone that he is shepherding over. And a leader should view their role as a shepherd, not as a general.
And Len and I had the privilege of serving on one of the best officers that I served under in my 10 years in the Marine Corps, Colonel Boggs.
Yep.
The man was awesome.
The guy that I unfortunately was my commanding officer in Iraq was the biggest piece of human garbage I'd ever known. He was the most selfish man that I had ever met. He got a Bronze Star in Iraq for writing a book about how to flip property and finishing college. That's what he got a Bronze Star for. All the rest of us got Army Achievement Medals at best, maybe some Archons. And yeah, so you can definitely tell a leader from a ruler by their motivation. If their motivation is themselves, bettering themselves, if they're the guys sitting at the top of the castle with the gold gilded Desert Eagle that they never have to shoot, but it's in their holster to make you fear them, then they're not a leader. They're a ruler, and you should absolutely revolt and put that head on a damn pike as far as I'm concerned.
Nowhere is flicking spitwads at you, but I'm going to allow it. I'm going to allow it tonight because I want to hear your answer to this question.
Sure.
Yes. How are group fees different from a tax?
Easy. It's voluntary.
It's voluntary.
That's a
Voluntary.
good one.
No one's going to put a gun to your head if you don't pay it. No one's going to flashbang your neighbor's dog. No one's going to shoot your kids. No one's going to shut your business down. No one's going to come take your 15 bars of gold out of your safe if you don't pay it.
See, now we got local prepper questioning his choice of topics at a Kentucky Sustainable last fall.
I may or may not be in talks with that man right now. Just saying.
There's going to be more opportunities, I think.
By the way, guys, local prepper, absolutely fantastic channel, former Marine. And from what I know of him, and I've known him now for 3 years, maybe known him via email, phone call, and video calls. I would absolutely allow a guy like him into my group. The guy's solid.
He is not a former Marine. He is a Marine veteran.
Okay, yeah, I forgot that the Marine Corps has its own brand of brainwashing.
Hey, Moose Man's in the house.
The only former Marines are the ones that have pissed all the other Marines off, and so we kick them out of the club.
Yep. Hey, nowhere homesteady, to your second point, you're right. And to be a Boy Scout, you have to do the same. It doesn't mean it's a tax. You can stop at any time.
Yeah.
Every club out there has membership fees. You got to pay fees to play baseball. It doesn't mean it's a tax. A tax comes from a centralized government point, and a tax is something that there are severe penalties, including death, for not paying. We actually have a system with us because people fall on hard times, and so the way it works with us is if you miss 2 or more months of either attending our meetings or paying your
Moose Man.
Back. We used to have this for the payment. We no longer do. But if you don't show up for 2 months, you lose your voting privileges for 2 months. And it's not meant to be a punishment. It's meant to be that the people who aren't there to know what's happening consistently aren't as in the know on decision making as the people who are. But we had it at one point for our membership fees. If you didn't pay for a while, you were in arrears and you couldn't vote. You could still show up, you could still train, you could still have all the benefits of being there, but you did not have the ability to be a decision maker when it came to public policy within the group. And that's the way generally it works with most private clubs.
I think the disconnect may be the fact that we live in a society where the government charges us money for stuff that we don't want, and then calls it a fee, right? When actually it's a tax or a punishment.
Right.
Right. So I think understanding the true definition of the word and the what it's meant to be, not what it is sure. Key to that conversation.
Yep. One is voluntary, one is compulsory. And if you find yourself in a private system that's compulsory with the threat of bodily harm, get the hell out. You're in a damn cult.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Absolutely. Okay. Let's go on to the next one. Group dynamics. This is a big one because this is where groups fail. This is what causes groups to fall apart quicker than anything.
Yep.
Okay. In your experience, and not just with your group, but you've been around a long time, and you've seen lots of groups come and go, and you've known some really long-standing ones. What's the most common challenge that you've observed in group dynamics, and how can they be addressed to ensure smooth?
Thank you, David.
3 things. Let's circle back. Children. How people discipline their children and how their children disrupt or not disrupt the meetings. If you're trying to bring someone in and their kid's a little shit running around screaming and yelling because they don't have their Game Boy or whatever and just causing disruption, that's going to give you pause. And
what's up, OG?
Number 1 thing that will destroy a group. Number 2, chatty women. Gossipy, backstabby, hen-pecking women will destroy a group quicker than anything. And they will destroy a group before asshole dudes. And it's because
yes, he does, Steven.
Can punch each other in the face.
That's awesome.
And 3 days later have a beer and be fine. Catty women can't. They have no ability at all to bury hatchets ever. And so in group dynamics, that's a big no. And then the number 3 is division of labor. You have to understand division of labor, meaning that if someone's not pulling their weight, either A, leadership hasn't inspired them to find a way to pull their weight, or B, they should never have been there in the first place. So in our group, we have our hierarchy. So we have, we'll call it Commander and XO, because we were all military when we started. So Commander and XO. And then we have like 7 committees, and each committee has a committee head. We have a comms committee. We have a children's committee. We have a food committee. We have an ammo committee. We have committees for everything. And someone is chosen to head the committee until they don't want to head it anymore, until someone new comes in who's better, and then we cycle them out as needed per how the group wants to do things. But each committee then has people assigned to that committee. And you can be on more than one committee if you want to, but our leadership will put out, all right, this is quarter 1 for 2025. I want A, B, and C accomplished. The committee leaders then are in charge of their portion of that task. So the comms guy has to have radios ready in categories A through X. And the food committee has to have purchases 1, 2, and 3 done. And the education committee has to put away 15 reams of typing paper, let's say, with common money. And so everything is broken down into those committees so that everybody has a job. There's not a single adult, a voting member of our group, who does not have a job to do or something. And we don't tell them what to do. We're not despotic. We're like, okay, these are the committees. Where do you think you would best fit? And some people might be like, I want to be on the medical committee. And then they realize they faint at the sight of blood. Okay, well, that's not going to work. What would you rather do? I'm going to be on food committee. Great. And it turns out they're the best bean counter in the world, right? It's just like people switching MOSs in the military. You might find that what you chose doesn't suit you. You're going to move on to something else, so on and so forth. Same with the job field. But division of labor is the number 3 thing. If you have people who aren't engaged, who don't have a reason to exist, who are just showing up so they can sit around and bitch about Democrats all day, they're going to get bored and they're going to leave and they're going to find something else to do with their time.
That's one of the things. That's one of the things that I think our community got right. Because you build social capital,
yes,
by being involved in that, and we have, and it one of the things that our community does that irritates me, and it's not their fault, it's my fault. I've got a 9-to-5 job, and there's a lot of people that have the ability to do projects during the week, and I just can't make it, and I feel terrible because I can't make it. So I always try to get to the stuff on the weekends as much as possible. And
Shannon Wayne.
That division of labor and being involved is key to, because you see that one person that's not
awesome, David,
and the rest of the group starts questioning it. Now,
right. Well, it should
up,
be incumbent on the leadership to identify that. If you have, like you, 9-to-5 job and you're a homesteader, you got to come home and in the dark and go put animals away and stuff.
Right.
Your
Right.
community
Thank you,
should
Shannon
identify
Lee.
that, and maybe your job within the community is building flyers or writing a newsletter or sending out email blasts, because you can do that after everything else is done, or you can even do that while sitting at your desk at work. If you have your screens up, you can be typing out some emails for work, and then you're like, okay, I've got 5 minutes, nothing happened, I can bang out this homestead email real quick, right? It should be on your community's leadership to identify where people can shine.
That's true,
and
Moose
put them
Man.
in positions where they can shine.
Local Prepper has a question about the charter. He says, is it written down, which you said it was. Would you be willing to share that? Is that something that could be shared?
It is written down. I would have to get permission to share it. It's not my decision to make alone. But what I can tell you is when we wrote it, we were all wordy young men in the military writing NCOERs and OERs and stuff. And myself and 2 other guys, we were Freemasons at the time before we left the lodge. And so we were all inspired by these wordy, grandiose documents. But it's something along the lines of, in the presence of God, we formed this organization for what it is, and then we spell out what it isn't, and then we say what we are here to do, and then we say what we're not here to do. And it was very specific wording because we knew that there was a good chance at the time Hillary Clinton would become the president. Ends up it was Barack Obama. But at the time, we thought that was the direction the country was going. This was, I think, a year and a half before that election. And so we were writing it with very specific wording so that if some member of some 3-letter agency picked it up, it would be very difficult for them to twist it into trying to portray us as the dreaded M word or
You're right,
It's
Shannon.
very simple. We're here to survive. We want to be part of the rebuilding effort. We will assist local law enforcement, fire, and EMT as necessary. We are not anti-government. We are not this. We are not that. The group itself is formed for this purpose and this purpose alone. And that's pretty much what's in our charter. And then every member signs it. And when we have new members come in, before they're allowed to join, they see it.
Hey everyone, big heads up, Paleo Valley's running a sale on all their meat sticks right
let
now.
me
You
skip
can get
this.
30 sticks for $36, which comes out to $1.20 per stick. But before you go and stock up, first, here's why.
There we go.
And if they sign it and they're willing to abide by that, then they can sign and join.
Suggestion, and I think Local Prepper is right. I think people would like to see that. I would redact. I would take your charter, redact anything that you feel needs to be redacted. And I'd be more than happy to post it up on the community page. That way, it's not associated with Midwest Preparedness Festival. It's something we're doing as part of the the building your circle and mag thing. I think people could really benefit because
I could probably do a vanilla redacted version. I just would rather talk to my folks one time just to make sure they're okay with it.
I would have it no other way.
And that's kind of the thing. The curse of me being me is my group knows I'm the guy who's out front. They know that I'm always on
Moose Man,
like
that's funny.
Midwest or the Expo. So they know that we'll talk about, but there are some things I just won't broach without talking.
No, I agree. It's definitely get it. And it's funny you should say that you're the guy that's out front and your group knows that. Because that brings us to the next topic, trust building. You know, trust is hard to build, right? And when you've started your group, you've already got that minimum amount of trust that's got the group together. How's your group maintain trust over the years? How do you maintain that trust as it goes?
Shannon Lee, that's a good one.
Somebody posted a comment. You know, it only takes one off crap to destroy 100 attaboys.
Well, I recommend that even though we live in the 21st century and we have a 21st century towards our ideology of marriage, that we need to go back to the 19th century and how we look at marriage. You don't throw something away just because it's broken. And I highly recommend that people get in the habit of not fleeing at the first sign of trouble. Don't turn your group into a bunch of single moms and single dads, you know, and I'm using that figuratively, meaning there is going to be trouble in your group. Every group has it. I'm sorry. I don't care what system you use. I don't care if you're as agorist as I am, or if you're as despotic as some others. I don't care if you are a Marxist group. I don't care if you're a capitalist group. I don't care if you're right wing, left wing. Every group, no matter how good their foundation is, will have problems because we're people. We're flawed intrinsically. It's part of the corrupt nature of man, as described in Scripture. And so there's no getting around that. You have to anticipate that there's going to be bad blood at times. You have to anticipate that there's going to be conflict. You have to anticipate someone's kid is going to piss you off. You've got to anticipate someone's husband is going to say something you don't like. You have to anticipate that who you've elected to be your leader.
Hey, X and YC.
And you should look at a prepping group the way you do a marriage. You don't just break up at the first sign of trouble. You give it a lot of goes, man. You be that 1930s post-World War I Catholic wife who would never say the word divorce and who would just live in suffering for the sake of the kids. And I'm not trying to make that, you know, a sexist comment. I'm using it, again, as an analogy. You have to have that attitude to go into a prepper group and be solid with it, because if you're not willing to bleed and suffer with each other, you are never, ever going to survive in a group that isn't as attached or financially responsible as a marriage. So look at it the same way.
Okay. You know, it's funny you say that, because that concept is
David,
why our community, I know I saw Sam's comment.
There, I replied.
Okay. that whole idea is exactly why our community evolved the way it did, because we all figured out that there was no way we were going to be able to cohabitate on a piece of land, and we would be better off having our own properties. That way, when something like that does happen, and like you said, it's gonna happen.
Yep.
You can say "F you," I'm walking away. You can go back to your place and blow off steam for a couple of days, and then come back in and be part of the group again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it gives you the ability to walk away. If you're cohabitating at the end of the world and you can't get away from the group, that's a lot of stress, man. You probably see me drinking more than usual at that point.
I haven't had a cigarette since 2017, but I promise you at the end of the world that might change.
Yeah.
God, I hope not. I've had discipline from then till now, but you know.
Okay, before we go on to the next part,
huh?
Sam made a comment earlier about wanting to be more involved in the groups up here, but he's 3 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
From your standpoint and your experience with a long-standing group, how would you suggest that somebody handles that? How would you handle that?
Looking to get jacked, man, boy?
Commercials.
I'm just looking for some clean protein.
Clean. Kings.
we have guys and gals in our group who we haven't seen in 4 or 5 years because they're still in the military and they're moving around. That's fine. If you want to be active, what I would say is we all make time for the things that are important. If you can't find something local and the best shot you have is something 3 hours away, then you know what? That 1 week a month is the 1 week you go on your 4-week vacation. You come up, hang out, and you train for the 1 or 2 days you train, and then you have your cool down day and go home.
Hey, surviving behind liberal lines. Good to have you in here.
I don't see distance as a huge issue. We live in the 21st century world. I mean, look at what we're doing right now. There's people in that chat right now that we may never meet in real life. There's people in that chat right now who are half the country away, and yet here we are. And I'm not necessarily saying, do your training online. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying we live in a world that's more connected now than ever. There's a way to do all of these
Thanks
things.
for joining Surviving Behind Liberal Lines. We appreciate you.
It's 3 hours away, and it's important for them to have you because you bring something. As Ian says in Jurassic Park, nature finds a way.
Okay, that's a good answer. That's a good. It makes perfect sense because they don't.
Bushcraft, what's up?
Have a locker to store your stuff in.
Yep. Yep, and I have, and that's how I look at it. And I have lockers everywhere, and I am friends with obviously your tribe up where you're at. I'm friends with tribes all over this state. I'm friends with tribes in Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, just on account of who I am and what I've done for the past 20 years.
Hey, Terminator!
I've met a lot of people, and so even if you can't train with the group 3 hours away repeatedly, make friends with them. Get to know them, because I promise you that there's a big chunk of my motivation that is, if I'm walking through certain parts of Oklahoma, I am assured within a reasonable doubt that if certain people see me and my family walking across their cornfield on a random Tuesday when it's raining frogs through their rifle scope, they're going to say, oh, that's Spags and his family, don't shoot. Make the time to go and meet the groups, even if you only train with them once a year, even if you only get to see them twice a year. Network outside of your group. The whole idea of the MAG is to have multiple groups within the sphere of influence of which you hold. If you only look at your group, then you're going to become Roanoke, and you're going to walk off into the storm and you're going to die.
Right.
I highly recommend if you group, the reason you have the MAG outside the group is to network with other groups.
This is one of the reasons why we push the festivals.
Correct.
All right, guys, listen, I gotta take a second. I want to share something with you. It's only about 30 seconds long, and it's important. It'll help you become more prepared. And if you decide to take advantage of it, you'll be helping the channel as well. Okay, so here we go.
Make sure y'all subscribe to Grumpy Acres Farms. It's a great channel.
I got to figure out how to do this more smoothly.
It's the play button, G.
I know. There we go. And you guys can't hear it, of course. Can you guys hear it? You can't hear anything. Never mind. Guys, listen. Jace Medical is having a 10% off sale till the end of the year. It's the biggest sale that they've ever had, they say. You can get 10% off of the Jace Medical kits. You can also get 10% off the Jace Kids kit, which is specifically for kids.
Thank you, Bushcraft.
All you gotta do is use the code New Year's. At checkout, you get 10% off. If you go down in the description below, you can use our affiliate link to go there and then get the checkout. I highly recommend it. I have not bought a Jace case yet. I do buy their bulk prescription drugs though, and it did save us a lot of money. So guys, if you're looking at go ahead and take advantage of that, because it'll do you right. I spent like an hour working on that commercial and no sound.
Don't give up. Don't give up. Try it again next time.
I'll make it work. Okay.
And guys, listen to me. I'm going to say this as my shameless capitalist pitch. Use Grumpy's link. You're here watching his show. He is providing a service to you. He is providing, even if it's just entertainment for the evening, you're getting something out of being here. Use his link. Throw a little dime back his way. We got to start looking out for each other and being willing to use our.
Thank you, Survive Behind Liberal Lines. Grumpy's a good man. He's a good friend of mine. Thank you.
So use his damn affiliate link.
Thank you very much. And go ahead, Give us a thumbs up if you're liking this type of stuff. Let YouTube. When you give a thumbs up for something like this, you're not only helping this channel, you're helping every other channel that talks about important subjects like this. All right. Okay, we're coming into the home stretch, and it's making it last. So you said your group's been together for 19 years. After all these years of being part of a successful group, what's the one mistake you see others make that could easily be avoided? What's the one big mistake you've seen other groups?
I'm going to have to still fall on the sword of thinking that your authority is real.
Thank you, David.
Subjective authority,
Appreciate that.
when it comes to civilian application, you have to learn to be a leader by inspiring your people. You have to not be a leader by command hand. It doesn't work that way. It's very easy for it to work in the military. You know this. I know this. We've lived that life, because you're contractually obligated to the United States government.
So how would you purify water in case of a blackout?
damn commercial.
Boiling kills bacteria, but it doesn't remove contaminants.
At that point, and if you don't, they will destroy your life. You're going to get court-martialed, thrown in the brig, and you'll have
Absolutely,
your
Moose
your
Man.
voting privileges, your Second Amendment, all of that can be stripped from you if you get a dishonorable discharge. There's real-world consequence to that. You can't bring that into the civilian world.
Oh, thank you,
have to learn
Survive Behind
that
Liberal Eyes.
more flies with honey than vinegar, and you have to learn. And trust me, this is the biggest mistake I've made. The biggest mistake I've made is being an Army asshole out in the real world. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It nearly ended my marriage. It nearly has ended jobs of mine before, because I just couldn't understand why the fuck you won't do what you're goddamn told, right? And you have to break that, and you have to get away from that out here, and you have to understand that it takes an art to lead people as a shepherd. It takes no effort to be a dictator. All you got to do is be stronger and have a gun behind you to be a dictator. It's so easy. It's very difficult to learn the art of leadership, where you can inspire people to be the best versions of themselves today to reach the goal you know they need to reach. And so I'm going to also address one other thing you said earlier about the thing about a real leader doesn't want to be a leader. I still think there's a caveat to that, because I think there are people who have a natural proclivity towards leading.
Yep.
And they
Shannon Lee, Shannon King James, no, was a prepper.
Those big promotions, and they're those high performing people. And I think it's more fair to say that a person who wants to be a leader wants to be a leader for the right reason. Because I think if your calling is to be a leader, then you're going to want to do it. If you are a natural A-type personality, or even if you're a Sigma male, which is actually a very, very strong personality. If you're an Alpha or a Sigma, and you know, if I take this over, it's going to work. And I know that if I jump into this, it's going to be even better than it is now. You're not just going to say, well, I don't want to be the leader, so I guess I'm not. No, you're going to assert yourself, and you're going to jump your ass in there with both feet and give it your best shot, right? So don't be afraid to be the leader you were born to be, if you know you were born to be the leader. And the flip side of that coin is, if you know you're not the leader, learn to be a good follower. Oh, yeah. Learn to thrive and flourish no matter what side of that coin you find yourself on, and be the best damn version of yourself. If you're the best follower because you can send an email better than anybody and mop a floor better than anybody, or you can flip the burgers on grill day better than anybody, then be the best damn floor mopper and griller. And if you're the natural leader, then bolster that with humility and strength.
Okay, I'll you know what, I will acquiesce on my stance there. I think you well, thank you very much, local prepper. Thank you very much. You didn't have to do that, brother, but we appreciate it. Yeah, you know, and I somehow always ended up in leadership positions, and I really never really tried, but it's because, like you said, I always, you know, if something was screwed up, I was always stepping up and going, okay, we need to fix this. And and like you, it took me 10, 12 years after I got out of the Marine Corps before I could finally wrap my head around the way the civilian world worked again. You know, and it was hard.
They can't communicate for shit.
No.
They don't know how to return.
I agree with you, Stephen.
Emails in a timely manner at all.
Hi, Abigail.
But they tolerate intolerance.
Yes, I agree with you, Stephen.
And I just have to learn to shut up and realize,
yep,
okay,
exactly.
My purpose here is not to crush the Russians or the Iranians or the Syrians or whoever the boogeyman is that's out there, right? My purpose here is to shepherd these people and to lead them into a position where they have the best chance of surviving.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I got a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
Thank you for being here, Shannon Lee. I appreciate you and your husband so much.
Can you share one incident with your group about your group? Don't give up any OPSEC.
Yeah.
Can you share an instance when the group faced a major challenge and how the resilience that you've talked about helped overcome it? What's the largest challenge your group has faced over the years in staying?
Sorry to hear that, right behind liberal lines. That's got to be tough.
There was.
Thank you, Shannon Lee. I appreciate you.
There was a point where we were shifting out of the militaristic mindset into the homestead, right? And so we were designating now multiple bug out locations. And so we had to take a real 1,000-foot view of what that looked like from up here.
Thank you, Shannon Lee.
Tell some people your place just sucks. Sorry, it might be great to raise your kids. It might be a fantastic home, but where you live and what you have going on is so far removed from everybody else, or is right in the middle of town, or is just not conducive to 50 people, 60 people showing up and occupying for the rest of time, that we're no longer going to make you a bug out location officially for the group. Now, we will.
Ever wonder how
You're very welcome, David. I appreciate you being here.
And your right to
Thank you so much. And again, you have a very awesome wife, brother.
What we did was we transferred them down to what we call alternate locations. They're fallback locations. We still put stuff there. We still stock food. We still stock water. We still stock ammo, medical gear, and we still will do work days out of their place. But we don't train there regularly because it's no longer a primary bug out location. Sorry for using that term, guys. I don't know what else you're going to call it, but that's what it is. It's a bug out location.
Yeah.
And so the shift caused some hard feelings because there were some people that were a primary bug out location for a long time. Well, when we started, there was only 3 places. Now we have like 5, and that means a couple of the ones that weren't so good.
You're exactly right, Moose Man.
So at the time, I was the executive officer, the second in command of the group.
Thank you, David.
And so I basically broke it down like this. I said, look, I still technically live inside the Topeka city limits.
You have an amazing day too, sir.
Not a viable bug out location. I live on less than a quarter of an acre in a 4-bedroom house in the middle of downtown Topeka, or west side of Topeka. Occupation comes, my place is compromised, and I'm not upset that I'm not a bug out location. In fact, I will also give up the status in this group of being an alternate.
Okay, Stephen, appreciate you.
How tactically inefficient my current living situation is, and I said I'm willing.
Thank you, David.
Off the list for both a bug out location or an alternate, and the act of self-sacrifice seemed to fix it for a while. I think that there was still a little bit of, I missed when it was ours, but okay, nostalgia only goes so far, man. You got to look at logistics. Everything in life is an economic decision, and that means ultimately it boils down to logistics. Can we fit X number of people at your house?
That's good, surviving behind liberal lines. That is great.
And so, yeah, it caused some hard feelings, and we're all still here. It just took some time for people to get over it, and I did my best as a leader at the time to fall on my sword, and my wife had to do that along with me. We're no longer a bug out location.
Son of Hack said that you downgraded their properties to temporary fobs.
Correct. Yeah. And that's okay. You're still on the road.
Yeah,
man.
Moose, I hear you.
If your floor's falling in, you're not going to house 50 people.
Apparently I missed Rabbit Coyote donated something to us. So I missed thanking him.
He donated $1. Yeah.
Thank you. I missed it. I apologize. Thank you very much, Rabbit. Again, you don't have to do that. We would rather, if anybody,
man, hang in there, survive behind liberal lines. I hope you make it through okay.
To help the channel, we would rather you go through the affiliate links and get something through that, because in the process of helping the channel, you're getting something to help yourself be more prepared.
Mutually beneficial that way, yes.
Yeah. We would rather you do that. We're not going to turn it down. We're not so proud we're going to turn it down, but we do appreciate the help in any form it comes in. Okay, last thing, and this isn't really a mag question. This is more of a, well, I guess it would be a mag question. Okay, so here's the thought. So there's groups out there that say whenever the balloon goes up, we're gonna go to our bug out location. We're gonna shut the gate. And we're gonna ride it out. All right. I have a major problem with that. All right, and here's the reason why. Because if you go in and you shut the gate, you're abdicating everything outside that gate to people that may not have your best interest in mind. And when you decide to open the gate up, you may be faced with a world that is extremely hostile to you. What's your take on
That's a good idea, surviving behind the lines
and closing, bunkering up or going out and being involved in the larger community during the hard time?
I would say it would have to 100% depend on why you're bugging in to begin with. There are absolutely circumstances where you'd want to bar the gates. There are absolutely circumstances you wouldn't want to. And I think everything is a balancing act. So let's say an EMP goes off and the unwashed hordes no longer have access to their internet porn, their OnlyFans, and their online gaming. That's not my people anyway. I don't give a shit. I have no moral obligation to them, and I will bar the gates against them. Now, let's say you live in a place where that's not so prevalent and the EMP goes off and you have a community of thriving homesteads and you're friends with your neighbors and you go to a local church and you're part of the local community and you do all these things. Yeah, you wouldn't want to bar your gates necessarily then too. So I'd say everything is probably situationally driven, and there are times I would absolutely go to DEFCON, 1 and bar the gates, and there are times I would not. It would just be dependent on what's going to happen. But I certainly would not be the guy who's like instantly shoot him in the face every damn time.
You mentioned the optimal word there, and that's the one that I wanted to get to. Is it depends. Mm-hmm. It depends, and that's the answer to everything.
It is
in the prepper world. It depends, because when you start looking at threat and risk assessments and you start looking at what's probable and what's possible, it depends. It depends on what's happening, right? But I'm glad you put it like that.
Yeah, and I would certainly say to your point that if your ultimate goal is to bar the gate and to never reintegrate, then you have a problem. I think you have to look at preparedness as a reintegration strategy. I don't prep because I want to build an island and then create, the M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Village, where we just ostracize and become something completely new and forget the past and create our own new reality. Look, man, no man is an island, and frankly, no group is an island.
Damn commercial.
I know they were messing with the water, letting reserves go for one reason or another. They've been doing that a while. California has a lot of problems that sort of baffle the mind as far as why they do things. And then in the events like this, you sort of look, is it on purpose? Which it's an insane thing to think. Mm-hmm. But one begins to ponder whether or not there is a purpose in mind. What could it be? I don't know.
If you think what's happening in California,
every group has strengths and weaknesses, even in the communal sense. And so your goal always should be reintegration into whatever. Now and that's worst case scenario too. Let's say the Russians EMP us and they show up and they occupy us and they win. And 2 years later, they bring the grid back up. You will have to reintegrate into that. You will have to be able to chameleon yourself to survive. Because at that point, you're like, fuck it, it's the Russians. I'm not playing that game. Congratulations on consigning your children to death, you selfish fucking prick. Right? You have to put the needs of your group and your family ahead of all of that. And you have to be willing to reintegrate in almost every single situation. Or what's the point? What's the point?
That's awesome. Survive behind level lines. That's a great idea.
In a thatched roofed mud hut, just because the EMP went off. That's kind of ridiculous.
Yankee Watchdog asked the question: if there's a local bread line, should you be in the line or not?
Sure.
I think the better question is, if there's a need for a bread line, are you the one that's providing it, or are you the one that's in it? I think that's the more important question.
I think that have you prepped in a way where you can be a service? But let's just take the question at face value. If there's a bread line, should you be in it? Somebody should. You might not need the bread, but you need the intel. You need to know what's happening in the city. You need to know what measures the local authorities are taking with quarantining and rationing and all that. So I would think at some point, if your group is wise enough to have planned ahead and you have an intelligence committee, answers to the test right here, guys, that you would have people who are specifically designed to go gray man. And sure, they're the ones who are going to go in town and stand in that bread line.
Okay. So we've gone through all the questions that I had, and it's been a great conversation. Did you have anything that we didn't discuss that you'd like to add to the discussion?
Can we pitch the Midwest Preparedness Project?
In a second.
Okay, that's what I would have. Honestly, your outline that you sent me gave me the opportunity to say everything I was going to say.
Okay, closing thoughts on the topic at hand, on how to make your assistance group not suck. What's the final thing on this that you would say to people?
Thank you, surviving behind over lines.
A proper hierarchy: God, family, community, self.
Amen.
Follow that, and you'll be fine.
Okay, amen. I'll give a great big amen to that.
Me too.
Okay, now that we're done with that part of it, what are you doing nowadays, brother? What's the big part of your life? What do you want to talk about and promote?
Let's get everybody to get to the Midwest Preparedness Project this coming spring. It's going to be May 6th through the 11th, I think. It's out at Clinton Lake at the Bloomington West Campground. It is going to be a week-long camping extravaganza, and it is free to the public because we believe in providing service at the lowest possible cost. The only way that we make any money to put these things on is we get people like Grumpy Acres sponsors us every single event. They donate an event or an item, and we put it in a opportunity drawing, because you can't say the dreaded R word in Kansas, or the Gaming Commission wants to get involved in that one too. And we sell tickets, and you have the chance on Friday to win everything up on the stage, and then again on Saturday to win everything up on the stage. And so we then take that money and use it to buy a better tent. We use it to build a better stage. We use it to get better websites and upgrade our social media stuff and get prizes and bring in speakers and all these things. So come to the Midwest Preparedness Project. Meet Grumpy. He's going to be there. Yoda's going to be there with them, provided that she hasn't, gotten completely destroyed by the medical system by then. And we pray for you, Yoda, constantly. Prayers go out for you. Yeah. I know that was a miserable thing you went through, man, and I am really glad that you're back on TV again. So meet them, meet some of the other folks, meet Patrick Henry, meet Kyle, meet the other folks who do the Midwest Preparedness Project with me, meet Christy, meet Charles, Chief, all these great, wonderful people. We're going to have Joe Salatin as our keynote speaker. He will be there Friday and Saturday. He will be part of the...
All right. So I wanted y'all to watch that because, a MAG team is very important. And awesome, Moose Man. Appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate y'all bearing in there and watching that. And y'all subscribe to Grumpy Acres Farm. He's a really good friend of mine, good people. And I wasn't able to be in there much last night because I had other things going on. But I just wanted people to see that, because that's a lot how I run my mutual assistance group. And we're a little bit harder, but we're more militant, one could say. But we keep order. We train hard. And anybody here is welcome to join the MAG team, by the way. We have a lot of awesome, cool stuff that we train every weekend. Every weekend, every Saturday, every Sunday, 12 hours. And I'm glad you got some subscribers, Charlie. That's awesome. So if y'all got any questions about a MAG team or anything, just hit me up. But they pretty much covered most of it. I'm going to be at work while Ladies' Night is going on tonight. Oh, Shannon, King James Version Bible. Oh. Well, I hope you can join in on the Ladies' Night, soon. Yeah, I wish you was down here too, brother. We got a solid MAG team. I ain't got no money, okay? But they do use me for security and other things. And then I got my bike crew, which most of them are in the MAG team also. But we do what we do. And Mondays I'm off. Okay, all right. So email us, Shannon King James Bible. Email me. My email is in the description of the channel, and you can join the Ladies Night Live. That would be awesome. Awesome, Charlie. Cool, cool. So I hope y'all learned something from that. And y'all subscribe to Grumpy Acres channel. It's a great channel. He's a great dude. I appreciate y'all all. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being in the chat. And any lurkers, just subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you all. Awesome, Shannon, King James Bible. Yes, email Little Miss Prepper. That would be great. We'd love to have you on that panel. And I wish Shannon Lee was still in here because I want her to be on there. Hey, you're welcome, Surviving Behind Liberal Lines. I appreciate you. I do. You're a big supporter of the channel. That makes a big difference. Thank you so much, Surviving Behind Liberal Lines. Y'all give Surviving Behind Liberal Lines a shout out because he does support the channel a lot. And I really do appreciate that. I appreciate you all. And I hope y'all learned something. And know that Grumpy Acres does got a good channel. And then tonight, his wife will be on the Ladies Night panel if she's feeling up to it. So I appreciate you all. Hope y'all all learned a lot. Hope to see you on Ladies Night Live tonight. I may do another live later on today about how I feel about certain things. Like California, I believe that, I don't know. Surviving Behind Liberal Lines, do you think those fires were started on purpose? I just wondering, since you're there, you're there, it's your call. Do you think that those fires were started on purpose? I'm just curious, because you're there, you see what's going on. I'm in Florida. All I could do is speculate. Hey, thanks, Bushcraft, for subscribing. Yeah, Jesus loves you. Yeah, yes, he does. I'm waiting on Surviving Behind Liberal Lines to tell me if he thinks they were started on purpose or not. But maybe he don't want to answer that. But they did not see him set any so. Okay, but they did not see him set any so. Okay. Moose Man says, I say it was a terrorist attack. I agree with that, Moose Man. And Surviving Behind Liberal Lines says, I think some here have. Yep. And Tamara, APP, I have internet issues right now. That's why I'm usually not available for Ladies Night Live. Aww. How do you feel about the moral impacts of starting theory and its instructional parallels to event the... Wow, those are big words for a redneck. But I don't know. I really don't know, John Dell. Too many started in different locations. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Moose Man. Drones were there beforehand. It is possible. And Surviving Behind Liberal Lines is literally boots on the ground. He's there. Yeah, John Dell, we don't get into that stuff here. And Bushcraft Rebooted said, no doubt it was Maui 2.0. But how deep is it? John Dell said, hell, I don't know. But thanks to y'all for coming. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Y'all are family to me. They saw drones in LA, then fires. We had some drones here and some started here. See, I'm not there. You're there, it's your call. But me personally, I think it was on purpose. But that's just my opinion. You're there, so I value your opinion more than I do mine. Survivor Behind Liberal Line said, very suspicious. Okay, cool. That's what I think too, really. I just don't trust y'all. I agree on purpose, Surviving High Level Line said. Okay, cool. He agrees 100% on purpose. Wow, and he's there. He's literally boots on the ground there in the middle of it. Yeah, Moose Man, yeah, we can discuss that on other stuff. I don't do all that. They want to turn it into 15-minute cities by 2028 before the Olympics. Just saying. Yeah, Tamara. Yeah. Yeah. Surviving High Number Lines. Fire started and no electrical or no heat sources nearby, so suspicious on the fires. Yeah, I'm very suspicious, of that myself. So, there's that. But y'all make sure y'all join Ladies Night Live tonight with Little Miss Prepper. And I may go live later on, probably before she goes live, because I got some things I want to talk about. But I believe a mutual assistance group is very important. That's why I have one. Hey, what's up? What's up? You coming? Hey, catch the rewatch. It's a really good one. Everyone, please subscribe to the channel. Thank y'all so much. From mine to yours, to you and yours. I appreciate you all. And y'all have a blessed day. And thank you, moderators. Oh, wait a minute. The new claim is fires was one that put out a week before and didn't monitor it like it rekindled. Oh, okay. I will reach all I missed. Okay, I will rewatch all I missed. Okay, awesome, awesome. Thank that. The smart meters on the houses. That's a good one, Tamara. That's a good one. That's also the case, Tamara, I think. And Surviving High Level Lines is literally in the middle of that. So, he's literally boots on the ground. So, and a great supporter of this channel, by the way. Thank you so much, Surviving High Level Lines. And I'm glad you were here, because I wanted to hear from you, because you're there. You're there. I mean, you could have lost your house. So there's that. All right, well, getting more BOBs and milk creates ready. Yep. So I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much. Y'all have a blessed day. Check out Little Miss Prepper's Lady Night Live tonight. And Saturday night, I will be going live. It's going to be like a chaotic live. Yeah, Moose Man, there was a big military theft of military stuff from an armory during the fires. Distraction, Moose Man said. And Bushcraft, thanks for hosting. You're very welcome. And Surviving Behind Over Lines, appreciate you always, APP. Thank you, Surviving Behind Over Lines. And I appreciate you. You're great. You're great people. You're awesome with the channel and all. Thank you so much. And Saturday at 8 o'clock, Moose Man, I'm going to stream that on this channel. That same crazy chat that was awesome that we had last night. But I'll be doing another big live tomorrow night at p.m. Eastern. Hope to see y'all there. Yeah, y'all check out Bushcraft Rebooted. Great channel. Good stuff. All right, well, I got chores I got to do. I live on a homestead. I live off grid. I got a lot of stuff I got to do. 8 p.m. Awesome. I'm glad you clarified that. So y'all have a good one. It's All American Prepper. Stay ready. Stay dangerous. Keep your head on a swivel. And subscribe to Bushcraft Rebooted. He just dropped his link. Y'all have a blessed day. Thank y'all so much. I can figure out how to turn this thing off. There we go. Thank y'all so much.